According to the NHS, the average person in the UK achieves 3 to 4,000 steps every day, whilst the NHS, they believe that 10,000 is the target that we should be achieving. Now, I'm not sure where 10,000 comes from. I'm not sure if that's just been plucked out of thin air, like 5 a day and all those sort of things, but it's a number that many people are aiming for. But what I feel is that walking has been maybe changed a little bit by the fact that we're counting our steps. Are we seeing walking as just a form of fitness or a form of transport, which has been obviously for most of our existence? But is there more to walking than just counting your steps? Are we, by focusing on these measurements, missing out on the magic that might be had in a good walk? So today I'm joined by somebody who is an expert in this area, who's going to be able to tell us what the magic of walking is. Dave from Northamptonshire Walks, do you want to tell everyone who you are? Give in 10 seconds. Give us your headline.
Hi there, I'm Dave Askew from Northamptonshire Walks, and my mantra is it's always been, if you can get out there and do 3 or 4 steps a day in nature, that's good enough for me.
Brilliant. So, and actually, that ties in quite nicely to what we're going to talk about a bit later about the idea of building the habit, because you said 3 or 4 steps, whereas I imagine a lot of people think they've got to start huge, going in for miles, but you're talking about steps. So that's really interesting. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to break this conversation down to 3 bits. I want to, first of all, talk to Dave a bit about the magic. What is it that's special about walking? Because clearly Dave knows something that I don't know. I like walking, but I think Dave has a few secrets that I'm unaware of. Then the second bit we're going to talk about is the difference between solo versus group walking. So is it more magical on your own, or is it better when you're surrounded by other people? And then finally, we'll talk about how to build the habit. So Dave, let's jump in on the bit about the magic then. What is it that's magical for you about walking?
I think the magic for me is that the effect it has on me, in as much as I'm a big nature lover anyway, and I'm a bit of an explorer, so I like going around and finding new things and sharing them with people. But I think it's the fact that we know what the benefits are, your endorphins and things like that, and it doesn't matter how you're feeling one day, your mood or whatever. Walking will always improve your mood, and it will also always be something there to see. So whether it's different times of the year, I have things like favorite trees, and I love going to certain places where I know that this tree is there, and at different times of the year or even different days, there'll be something about that tree that is different. And I always go and I think there, and I'll go up to this tree and I think, blimey, look at the size of the trunk and everything else. And I might give it a hug. I'm a bit of a tree hugger, I do admit. But I think, what has that tree seen? And it's that type of thing. What's the history? And it's like if I'm out somewhere and I go in a church. I never used to be into churches before I got walking. I'm not really religious or anything like that. But I go into these churches, or I go to old factories and where workers used to walk up the same steps every day, and you can see where the steps have worn away. And it's like a privilege to me to say, you walk into a church where, I don't know, hundreds of people have walked, or very important people have walked, somewhere like Westminster Abbey, who has walked up those steps. And it's having those sort of thoughts really when I'm out walking. And then again, discovering things. I've been doing the same walk time and time and time again. But every time I go and do it, I'll see something different, whether it's animals, birds, whatever it might be, or just something that I've never seen before.
Right. Okay. So it's what happens while you're walking. So is it not the walking itself? It's what the walking allows you to do.
I think so, yeah. And I've got one of those brains where everybody will tell you that I'm great to have on a quiz team, where I've got no specialist subjects, but it's full of rubbish. And I think the older you get, it takes you a little bit longer to get there. And people say, "Oh, you must be getting more forgetful the older you get," and all the rest. I don't believe in that, Jonathan. I believe that we're like a filing system. We are so full in here, and we're still adding to it, and it just takes a little bit longer to find that file. But yeah, no, I just think that I find walking relaxing. I can remember I did some work for a company, and they were very much office based in a beautiful old house, stunning house with amazing grounds. And every day they wouldn't take a break for lunch. They literally came in, worked, opened their at 12 o'clock, opened their sandwiches or whatever, ate at the desk, talked a little bit amongst each other for 10 minutes, closed it up and carried on. And they
Wow.
couldn't believe they actually sent out a search party on one day, and I was spending 20 minutes walking around the grounds. Just looking at it.
Right.
And I can't believe that, it resets you. It resets your mind. It resets your body. I think it's been to prove that I read something down here. 2 minutes um, in on walking offsets the harmful effects of sitting at your desk for 1 hour. That's
Oh, really?
has actually found that, yeah. And then 5 minutes in will reset your rhythm and your improved mood. And actually, 15 minutes in reduces your sugar craving. So
Mm.
it's very, very important to take that break and get out there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so many things to see.
Okay, so yeah, we've touched on a few things there. So you've said the history piece, being able to observe
Mm.
factories and churches and imagine who was there before. So almost a form of time travel, which is that's the thing I love about history. It's you're getting to go back in time and explore things that you've never would be able to experience truly. You've said about seeing stuff, discovering things. It improves your mood. It resets you. There's there's so much there's so much there. What would you say the most magic happens for you when you walk in? Is it during? Is it when you've got home, when you finish the walk, or is it the anticipation of the walk? Where's it? If you were to like almost like draw a chart, where does the Dave's excitement level? Is it highest before, during, or after?
I think it goes up and down all the time, but I do. If I'm going out to do a walk for the website, northamptonshirewalks.co.uk, then I will do a lot of planning for that walk. So I do a lot of research on what the sort of things are I could actually go and find on it. So, and I've mentioned going out and hugging trees and walking in the countryside. I love walking in cities as well. So in the winter, I hate mud, Jonathan. I can't be doing with walking across muddy fields. Can't be doing that. So in the winter, once a month, I'll buy a cheap ticket, the first cheap train down to London, and then the last cheap train back. And I've done about 23 walks around London, and I thought I knew London, but I'm doing this research, and it's taking me down little alleyways and going to talk to people, and I get quite excited about what I'm going to see. So a classic example was there's a church, I can't remember the name of it, which is opposite the Tower of London. And I read that it was the church of the boatmen. So the people that used to row people across the Thames before the bridges were there. And I went in there, and I'll always go and talk to everybody. And the lovely lady there, tell me the history about this church. And she said, would you like to come up the steeple with me? And I went, oh, okay, fine. And got up there, and she said, you're now standing where Samuel Pepys stood when he watched London burn. Now,
Right.
something like that is just mind-blowing, and
Hmm.
you think you're standing there touching things and whatever. Yes, so the planning stage of it gets me really excited. I think the actual doing it and finding these things probably brings the big smile.
Right.
Yeah. And at the end of it, the sitting there and feeling excited but relaxed at the same time because you've done it and you've found something, you've seen something you maybe haven't seen before. It's good. But then obviously I come back and then I write that walk up. That was part of my process. And I suppose that part again leads to the excitement leading up to publishing that walk on the website and the reaction that comes from people saying, I've seen that. I really want to go and do that.
Hmm.
So it's a real,
That's
that's where I get
interesting.
joy from. Yeah.
So this is far more than just going for a walk. This is
Obsession.
exploring. Well, as you were talking, the word that came to me was exploring.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
not I'm going to put my coat on and I'm just going to walk and see what happens. It's you think about where you're going to go before you go, and then you go on the walk and you're exploring as you go. Bit of time traveling as well because you're observing, you're hugging your trees. You're thinking about the churches and who would have walked through the doors of them, those factories, and how they would have functioned. So I guess you're bringing it more to life than a lot of people might notice if they did the same walk. I guess so. Would it be fair to say it's your mental approach to walking that makes it special compared to some people who just see it as a physical thing?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, physical, it's really, really important as well. But we discussed earlier that how many steps, 10,000, I don't count steps.
Yeah.
I'm not into counting steps. So once we finish today, I know that we're going to go out with walking with the dog. I know the exact route that we're going to go today. But we might deviate it off a little bit if we see something a bit special. But
Mhm.
I know that the population of jays has increased in the local wood just down here. So today I'm going out and we'll see how many jays we can see.
Right. Okay. This is really good because this is bringing something to life that a lot of people might think of just it's quite a mundane activity. Oh, I have to walk to work. Dull, but actually it's your approach. It's what you're looking for whilst you're out and about, as opposed to thinking I've got to get from A to B. It's what you're seeing during going from A to B, and then maybe that's the trainer in you. Is it the you're planning in advance, and then afterwards you reflect back on what happened by journaling it and actually writing it up for other people to enjoy the experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's sometimes you go out and you've got your purpose of going, or you don't have to have your purpose, but that can develop. So it
Mm.
may be that you walk into a park or whatever, just a local little pocket park. It doesn't have to be anywhere, it could be on your doorstep. And it might be that you're just going in there thinking about things, and then something happens over there. And I remember going out on where were we? On the island of Mull up in Scotland, and we spent a day with a wildlife expert. And he would be sitting there. I was in the front of the car with him, and he'd be going, "There's a deer over there. There's that there. There's a golden eagle up there." And I'd go, "How are you seeing this?" And obviously, the guy did what he did every day. But his tip for me was two things: look for something that shouldn't be there, and
Right.
look for movement. And I started doing that. And as soon as I started doing that, it just opened my senses even more. And I remember asking him, he said to me, he said, "Right, we're going down this road now. This is where we could see golden eagles." And he said, you need to be looking along the ridge. And I said, "How will I know if I've seen one?" He said, "You'll know if you've seen one." He said, "'Cause it's the size of a sheep,
Right.
and we did it. But it was as soon as you knew that you were looking for movement or something that shouldn't quite be where it was, then I pick up so much now. So I'm out walking. If I'm out walking with a group, I'll go, "Oh, look at that over there. There's that something over there." And they go, "How are you seeing this?" And because I'm that all the time, I'm scanning.
So that's
Oh,
two interesting ways. Look, so you're saying look for movement and look for things that shouldn't be there.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. So a classic one again about finding something on a walk. We obviously live in Northamptonshire. I was walking out in a place called Nassington, which is near towards Peterborough, Wansford area, and walking through this area, woodland, and all of a sudden I came across a big concrete floor, and I thought, What is that?" And I'd researched for this walk, but I hadn't found this big concrete floor, and at one end was a plinth. And thinking, well, that's that waste time. Thinking that's really strange. And I suddenly realised that where I was used to be the old Kingscliff US Air Force World War II base, and I'm standing on the floor of an old hangar,
Right.
and at the end of it is this plinth. There was a point on it, and then it's got an inscription on. And I went and stood there, and it's one of those places where that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Because what it said on it was, "This is where, on this date, I think 1940, was where Major Glenn Miller conducted his last ever aircraft hangar concert before going missing at sea." Now, I have lived in Northamptonshire since 1980, and I've walked around there many, many times. I didn't have a clue.
Right.
Didn't have a
Okay.
clue that was there. Now, you
Mm.
imagine the excitement at finding that one. Yeah.
Yes, that's one for your collection.
Yeah, yeah,
I imagine when you wrote that one up as well afterwards, I imagine a lot of people were keen to get out there and make sure they they saw that
yeah,
one.
yeah. That's right. And we do that one quite regularly as a group walk. And
Mm.
we once took a group out there, and it was mainly ladies. And unbeknown to me, when we got there, somebody went into their phone and they downloaded Glenn Miller's "In the Mood." So all these women are jitterbugging around on the floor of this hangar. So
Right. Oh, so it's the we're talking about the Glenn Miller.
the Glenn Miller, yeah, the band
Right.
leader, yeah.
Right. I thought you just it meant someone who happened to have the same name who was in the
No, no,
military.
no, no. We're talking the Glenn Miller, and you can stand
Right.
there at one end of this massive, great aircraft hangar, and you can imagine the orchestra stood behind you, and you are. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah,
So sounds like as you're speaking, then it's clear that your approach to walking is what makes it special. Is this something you speak to the other people? Your other walk leaders, the people that support you. Do they have a similar approach, or do you think that's why they enjoy walking as much, or do you know if they get something different out of it?
yeah. They're all very different. Certainly, one lady does the same sort of thing. Another one though, she's not so much into the history and everything like that, but she surprises her people on her walk. So they'll go for a walk, and if she knows there's a duck pond, she would have gone out and bought a load of duck food and hands them all out a little packet of duck food to feed the ducks. Or we try another one. Another one would just really just likes to walk. So that that sort of person, and our group members tend to, we tell them who's going to be leading or what each walk. So they like to choose, and they've all got their favourites as well. So
Okay.
but
So
we're all quite different.
yeah, you've all got your own philosophy around
Yeah.
walking then. Oh, that's interesting. So you said to your a bit about the history. You've got a lady who's into the nature and one person who just likes the walking for walking's sake. With that bit about nature, that's really interesting actually, because I noticed obviously you and I know each other from the allotment. Both are vegetable growers. Dave's far more experienced and professional than I am. He's a pro, whereas I'm an absolute amateur. And this I think has been growing food as well. Notice more. I pay a lot more attention to the changes in the seasons,
Mm,
and that for me when I'm walking the dogs, and actually sometimes now, whereas before I used to just walk and it was come on, let's just get the walk done. Now it's
yeah.
more sometimes I actually just stop, just sit down, or even just sit on the floor sometimes and just watch what the dogs are doing, or observe the differences in the trees. I haven't hugged any yet, Dave. I'm not quite there yet, but I look at the colours of the leaves, and actually that in itself is just really enjoyable just to notice the changes, and that's something I haven't done before. So I think this idea about noticing and making it more of a mindful
Mm,
experience, it's rather, I guess it's like that idea. Some people can say and I'm one of them, driven to work, and then you wonder how you got there.
yes.
So
Yeah.
you've driven
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's quite scary, isn't it?
Well, it is in terms of missing out on life, but also in terms of safety.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with walking. So it's interesting, these ideas you're talking about, how can take us out of that, where we're noticing everything rather than noticing nothing. What I'd like to do, tell us about what was the walk you did that was that point where you think I absolutely love this. What was your epiphany walk?
Oh, good grief. I suppose there's been so many. Um, I go back to walking around London, I think is the big thing. And occasionally I'll set myself one that's a bit of a challenge. I think that if there's one moment, and it goes back to this thing about touching something that's got a relation back to history or something. I was walking on the South Bank in London, and I'd just gone past the Oxo building. And just past the Oxo building in the Globe is a tiny little alleyway. And I think there's a Greek restaurant out on the corner, if my memory serves me right. I just happened to glance down this alleyway, and about 10 yards down the alleyway is this little alcove. And in the alcove, there's a slate coming out. It's only about that big, something like that. And you go along, I'm immediately thinking, right, what is this? This shouldn't be here. This definitely should not be here. And you walk along and you realize it's a seat. And what it was, or what it is in the days when there was only one bridge across the River Thames, that is where the water boatmen used to sit and wait for people to take their fares and row them across the River Thames. And you can sit on that seat. And that to me is incredible. Absolutely.
Wow,
So I love something like that.
the discovery.
Yeah, yeah. But I also love one of my London walks. Where was I? I think I was down in Mayfair, and I found this beautiful squares that you keep coming across, and all around there's beautiful areas around St Paul's. London is incredible if you start really looking behind it all. And I'm quite nosy. I'll go up to people, and I know I shouldn't be there. But if somebody goes, "Oh, you shouldn't really be here," and I understand that, but just tell me about it. Tell me what it is, because I'm intrigued. And they immediately normally want to talk to you about it, and then you'll find that you can get to things the way you shouldn't really be.
Right, that sounds. Yeah, I mean, even as you talk about it, I can see the sort of the excitement in your face as well. So clearly, and in your voice, so you clearly it lights you up being able to do this.
Yeah,
Then, so that
I'm
time travel piece.
not walked down in London now. So I've got 23 walks on the website around London, but I've not been down there for probably about 2 years. And hopefully next month, that's when my winter walking program will start down there again. So yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that, which is something I thought was really interesting when you posted on Twitter the other day, that someone asked if you keep walking through the winter, and I thought it was great that
Yeah.
you said, because I thought in the post you said no, because it gets dark and so that's not why you don't do it, but actually you said that we get dark, people need this through the winter, so we
Yeah.
keep going, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, and certainly on the group walks thing, we just released the November dates, so we released them last Sunday. They pretty much all fully booked now. But the good news is, and certainly through October as well, we are seeing a massive increase in people that are joining us on group walks for the first time. Huge
Oh, right.
increase. So that's really, really good. And we do, if if somebody wants to come for a walk with us and they are a new person, then yes, we have sort of like limits on the amounts we take, but we will always try and squeeze a new person in. Uh,
Mm,
and occasionally you might get one. We've always said, people say to us on our group walks, what's the minimum number you'll take? And we just say one, because
right.
even if we get one person book, then we'll go, because there might be a reason that person's booked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It could be a whole
So,
host of reasons, couldn't there? And I think it's that thing where, again, just to reinforce what I was saying about this nighttime thing, as it gets dark, that's the time when I guess as the sun's not out, less daylight hours, people tend to struggle a bit more. And I think having that physical activity and that social connection, I'm sure, is really, really important.
and I'm one of those people, Jonathan. I really don't like. I say don't like the winter, but I know that during the winter I have to have something to look forward to and something to keep me going, and that's why the London walks are going to come in. I had a bad winter last winter, and I remember it, and it's not going to happen again.
Right.
Because we can't get down the allotment so much. It's gone to sleep, um, and I just need to be out and about. And like I say, I don't like mud, so that's when I go out and do my city walks or town walks and things like that. So
Mm. I
another,
actually,
yeah,
sorry, go on, go on.
another good one in London that I did, and I set myself more of a challenge. But if anybody wants to go and do a walk where you can see virtually everything that the important sites, is go and walk the Circle Line.
Oh,
So
right.
what you do is you visit every single station on the Circle Line. Obviously walking it above ground, not underground. Um, but that's a real cracker, and that's about 21, 22 miles. So that's a real challenge to do. But you can do it
Ah.
over a time. But I did it in a day, and that one.
Is that the green one or the yellow one? The district and
Yellow,
circle. It's the
yellow
yellow
one.
one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it's interesting actually saying about the mud thing because I think, yeah, for me, I don't. I mean, I walk the dogs around Delaprey Abbey and a local rec near us, and obviously go with the mud because that's where the dogs want to be on the grass. But I think the idea of these sort of walks you're talking about, the more historical discovery walks, would be more interesting to me. I love forests. That's not something I was always into, but now I've got quite into that. But yeah, the idea of just going through fields probably wouldn't appeal to me. But these city walks you're talking about sound
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's so just want to though just to recap some of those points you've mentioned then. So you talked about this idea you're looking for history when you're walking. Some people are walking just for the sake of walking, like some of your leaders, they just love the walking act in itself. Others, it's for the nature as well. What grabbed me as well, the bit about improving your mood, and those two ideas you got from that person. You said look for movement, and then look for things that shouldn't be there. I think that's really interesting. I'm going to take those two things on board. Actually, next time I'm walking the dogs, I'm going to look for things that shouldn't be there,
Yeah.
and try and be looking in the trees, looking for movement. See, a bit of bird spotting.
Yeah. Look up. Just keep looking. Oh, sorry, there's somebody just come to the door. So the dog's off. Um, yeah, look up. A lot of people I see a lot of people when they're walking, and people I was out with the other day, and I understand why. We're walking maybe across a little bit of uneven surface, but they're constantly looking down, constantly
Mm,
looking down. Now the only time I look down is when I'm walking up a very steep hill. So look down, little steps, and you'll hopefully get there without worrying. Um,
yes.
but yeah, look at different levels all the time. Um,
Mm,
look down on the floor. There's a wood quite near to us. I'll tell you where it is, but it's there's lots of stag beetles there. So when I go in that wood, not only it's very, very ancient wood, not only am I looking around and looking for movement for deer and things like that, but I know that these stag beetles are there. So I'm looking down a lot on there, trying to find them, and maybe just stopping and occasionally and turning over a log and seeing what's underneath the log and that.
yeah, that it's a bit like walking down Oxford Street or walking down any modern town centre. They're pretty dull. You've got all the standard shops, the shop faces that aren't usually very attractive. But as soon as you look up, you can go back in time and see what was going on in that town 50 years ago, 100 years ago. And Oxford Street's actually amazing. Once you ignore the really dull
Yeah.
shops, the gargoyles and all those things that are up there, there's so much. If you like you say, if you look up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the same in Northampton. Look at we've got the most beautiful market square, but down the
Yes.
bottom of it is all the fascias. But once you look up above that and going up the drapery and that, it's incredible.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've actually got a picture. A friend of mine, Mark Kennedy, drew a sketch of the market. It's in, I think it's on a living room on the wall. So shout out for Mark there. So let's talk about this idea then, the difference between solo and group. Then you've got someone. I imagine people listening are going to be quite persuaded by the benefits, the inherent benefits of walking, the magic that it can bring to their lives. What about the difference between what is the difference between walking on your own and walking with other people?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for me, it really depends how I'm feeling on the day. So I know when I've got a group walk coming up because obviously we plan the dates and everything. So again, I've got my notes that I've done from my walks and things that I want to introduce people to and show people as they come along. And I think the main reason that we set up group walking was we were getting a lot of feedback from people saying that they love the walks on the website, and they like going to do them, but they still felt maybe a safety issue. So that I would say that that is a big factor in, especially that was coming from the ladies more than anything else. I'm a female. Whilst I want to go out walking, I love walking. I don't really want to do it on my own. And I
Mm.
think that was the company, and certainly with ours, we take normally a maximum of 20 people on each walk, and they will turn up. They generally they when they first started, we get so many different people come, but they probably don't know a lot of people. And certainly the people that book for the first time are quite nervous. So what we tend to say to them is we'll drop them an email, say thank you very much for booking, great, really looking forward to seeing you. There's nothing else for you to do now. That may be that they booked a walk that's 3 weeks in advance. There's nothing else for you to do now. A couple of days before each walk, we'll send you an email that enables you to just turn up, chill, relax, and let us look after you for a couple of hours without a care in the world. And that's the way we position it. So they know
Mm.
that when they get there, that there's always going to be something. And it never fails to amaze me that within 5 minutes of starting a walk, it's you know.
So it's a
Uh,
friendship
but
developing.
I think safety in numbers, it's the herd mentality probably is the first thing.
Mm.
And it depends as well. We'll walk for a bit, then we'll stop, and I'll point something out. So I'm always trying to give them a little bit. So a classic walk is the Fotheringham walk, where we talk about Mary Queen of Scots execution, the birthplace of Richard III, and things like that. So lots of things to see and do. And I think that's really good because they're getting the interaction with the group, so they're feeling like they're belonging to something. They're getting the exercise, hopefully the feel good factor, and we're trying to give them a little bit of something that they probably didn't even know. And we all point out things as we go.
Mm.
Look at that over there. What do you think that is? And
Okay.
we have a bit of fun with it, Jonathan. We tell a few lies as well.
Such as
All good, all good. Such as okay, so we're in a
this bridge is safe.
yeah, oh yeah. And we always have a group photo. So it may be that we get them all standing on the bridge and say, take the photo and say, got to take this within 10 seconds because that bridge has been, not too so, but condemned. I can remember one evening being in a very old dovecote near the lost village of Furdo, and there's about 500 pigeon boxes in it. And this lovely lady said to me, she said, Dave, what's that bit of wire that's hanging down there? And I thought, I can't resist. And I said, have you ever had a budgie? And she said, no, I haven't. I said, well, everybody knows that a budgie, to keep it content, likes to have a swing. I said, and in the olden days, it was exactly the same in here with the pigeons. The monks put up swings for the pigeons. I said, that bit of wire is the remnant of a pigeon swing. She goes, true. Absolutely.
A pigeon trapeze.
Absolutely.
She believed you?
Yes. Yeah. But
Wow.
two days later, she did send me a message and said, you're lying, aren't you? And I'm like,
Convincing her, good at
yeah.
walking and convincing at lying.
Yeah. So the feedback that we get is that, and people have written saying we couldn't believe how friendly it was, how much we were immediately felt part of something, part of a group or whatever, and we can't wait to come again. And for anybody that is worried about booking on one of these walks, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And I think that the time goes very quickly. It goes a lot quicker when people are walking in group walks. I think the thing that you can't do with a group walk is you can't you can't keep stopping all the time. You've got to keep going, and you've got people on group walks that walk at different speeds as well.
Yeah, yeah, of
So,
course.
if they want to walk, some people want to walk quicker, then we'll give them a little instruction of where to go and then where to wait.
Mm.
They may go off at, you're happy to let them go at times, get ahead, because you're going to come to a place like a crossroads or something and they don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
So they have to wait for the group anyway. So it's different ways of
Okay.
managing it, really.
And is for you personally, is there a difference in that magic, those things you talked about earlier, between a group walk and a solo walk, or is it exactly the same?
No, I loved it. It's a different feeling. The buzz that I get out of group walking is seeing their reactions and seeing the interaction that they have amongst themselves, but also showing them things that I know and that excite me in the hope that it will excite them as well.
So it's almost you've been and explored, you've been ahead and
Yeah,
explored, and you've found some
yeah,
exciting. I can't wait to tell everyone.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and
Okay.
it's like you're coming to that bit, and it doesn't matter how many times you do that walk. I know that I'm coming to that bit, and I know I'm going to stop the group, and I know I'm going to give them something. There's a bit of fun, bit of history, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, well, we've talked about the magic, so I clearly can tell why you like walking. It's obvious there's so many benefits in there for people, whatever their set of interests. We talked about the difference between solo and group. Let's talk finally about how to build the habit. There's a few things I want to ask about, really. First of all, what about kit? Does it matter what you walk in? Do you need to go out and buy the latest, whatever brand it is, hiking shoes? What do you need?
I was reading something. I'm a quick read about walking and mental health before we started today, and somebody said, "Oh, a good thing to do is to go out and walk barefoot." Now,
Right.
I have a habit of sticking things in the bottom of my feet if I do that. So I'm not saying going out through a forest across gravel and things like that. But there's something, I can't remember what it was, but there's something that can aid the body more and relax the body more if you're in contact barefoot with the surroundings that you're in. So
Right, like earthing sort of thing. Is it earthing,
yeah,
grounding, whatever it's called, something like
yeah.
that? Yeah.
But certainly, going back to your question, do you need expensive footwear? No. For years and years and years, I was going through boots or walk or trainers or whatever, like crazy. And it's only really been the last 3 years that I thought, come on, you're doing this so much now. There must be a way of stopping your feet getting wet all the time. So
Mm.
that's when I went out and bought a really good pair of boots with linings and everything. But no, if you're just a normal walker, it depends. We've already said that some walking, I don't like mud, so I don't do field walking too much in winter. So you're doing hard surface. So just a decent pair of trainers or something like that.
Mm.
But if you are going to get off into the fields a bit, then if it's grass fields, then you might be okay in a pair and you're not going far. You might be okay and it's wet, just a pair of wellies or something. Or as long as you damp proof everything, you're gonna and you're fine. But no, you don't.
Right.
And distance, Jonathan, you don't have to go far. It's just
Okay.
it's taking the first step. That's the big thing. If we can get
Mm.
everybody to take the first step, then they
Yeah.
might just take the second step.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to come. We're going to explore that a bit more with you in a moment. Just back on the equipment. So, what about all this stuff around Nordic sticks and all that sort of stuff? Do you encourage people to use those at all?
If they want to use them, then you can use them. But you won't catch me using Nordic stick. I'm not a Nordic walker.
Okay.
There's a real technique to it, apparently. But yeah. But no, we came across was out doing a group walk a few weeks ago, and we came across a Nordic walking group, and so hello.
No rivalry, no scrapping, no
No, we
Nordic
don't.
sticks at dawn.
No, we don't know any of that. No, no, no. The only thing that if I've got a group walk, the only thing I carry a stick for is if I know we're going to go through somewhere that might be a little bit overgrown.
Yes.
And
Right.
I'll
Okay.
with the stick using it for that. But no, if Nordic walking if you fancy doing that, and there's plenty of Nordic walking groups around. There's one in Northampton that I know quite
Mm.
well.
Okay. So let's go into this. You talked about the steps. That quote comes into mind, from Dao De Ching, was it the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step? Or in the case of what you're saying, it's 2 or 3 steps. So let's go into that a bit then. So why do you recommend people starting with just a few steps rather than going all out?
First of all, it depends on their fitness levels as well, I suppose. If you're going to go out and you do your first walk and you're going to do 10 miles and you're not very used to walking, you're going to know about that in
Yes.
the evening and the next day. So the last thing we want to do is do that. And also that I think is when you're at the most risk of injury. So it's a case of start very slow and build it up. And it may be that if you've got the time, you go out and do two short walks in a day. So I know the dog was like going out for, short couple of walks a day. So yeah, so maybe two short walks instead of one big walk. And then again, you're seeing things at different times of the day. So you go out first thing in the wood in the morning and walk around, you'll hear the bird song, etc. But if you go out in the evening, there'll be something different. There'll be a calm, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it's you don't need the masses of equipment. It's just a case of considering having the right equipment for the conditions and for where you are.
Yeah, which just sounds like sensible advice, doesn't it? Really, rather than go out and spend loads of money on stuff, just be sensible. If you're going
Yeah.
through muddy fields, put your wellies on.
Yeah, I wouldn't wear a pair of wood myself. I wouldn't wear a pair of wellies in woods because they've got a lot of roots, and if the root, especially at this time of year, the roots of the trees that are sticking up are quite slippery. And I
Yeah.
tend to find that with wellies, it's you're gone.
Yeah. Nearly happened to me the other morning, actually. So yeah, I can see what you're talking about there. So what about this bit about planning? Because you said you think about what you're going to where you're going to go. You go and enjoy the walk, and then afterwards you reflect back on it. What would you say to someone who's looking to start walking? They want to experience this magic that you've been talking about. There's maybe not a walking group near where they live, but they want to start. Where would you advise them to plan? Would you advise them to do a bit of googling? What would you suggest?
No, I'd always plan. Googling's a great one. I use an app which is the Ordnance Survey app, so OS Maps.
Mm.
Is that one? That one will show you around quite a lot. The show you exactly if you're somewhere, you can immediately just press a button and it'll show you exactly where your location is. It will also help you show you all the footpaths that are around and everything. And this week we did a group walk and we were going across a field that had recently been drilled. The crops were coming up. We were quite a big group. Now I'm very keen to show farmers that we are following the exact path of where we're going, and you could see a path going straight up. Now I knew that I've done that walk many times before, that the path actually went off diagonally, but it wasn't really marked. It will be in a week or so. But I was immediately able to get OS Maps come up and show me where that path was. And I knew that I was walking exactly there. So I brought the group back across and doing that. So that's a really good tool to have.
And is that
But
an app? Is it?
yeah, OS Maps. And
Yeah.
get the premium version. It costs around about £25 a year, something like that. But very, very good. And you can never get lost with it. So I always
Right.
recommend everybody to try and get that one.
And
Um,
does
sorry,
that one, I was going to say, does the ordinance, so would that point out landmarks as well? Because you mentioned about your interest in churches, old factories. Would the
yeah,
OS app do that as well?
it's got exactly what is on OS Maps, the big maps, and it's completely up to date. So,
Wow.
so if a footpath changes, they do get it updated pretty quick.
Hmm.
Whereas you've got your paper apps. I've been in situations where I've been out walking and gone down a certain way, and later that day had a message from somebody saying you're actually trespassing, and they paid a lot of money to have the footpath diverted from down their driveway. But obviously on the old paper map that wasn't shown, but on OS Map
Right.
it's completely up to date. So that's
So,
really, really good.
so that could be almost, is that how you sort of set up your shopping list then? Do you go onto OS Maps, have a look and think, wow, there's that there, there's that there. I'm going to set this walk around those things because they're the things I really want to see.
Absolutely spot on. So this week I did a walk from Watford Village in Northamptonshire, and the reason I did that walk was I found an article about a railway bridge called Pulpit Bridge, and it's the highest point on the railway between Rugby and Northampton. But this bridge is there, beautiful, beautiful ornate bridge, and I think it was Lord Henley that built it, and he lived in the nearby manor, which is no longer there. But he used to build that bridge, and the trains used to stop there to take him in down to the House of Lords in London. So his own private little station. But this bridge, I could say, is ornate, but on either side of it, there's like a pulpit, and it's called Pulpit Bridge. And the locals didn't want the railway to come there. So what he did was he built that bridge so that the local ministers could preach from the pulpit. So he actually made all of the villagers go to Pulpit Bridge, even though they didn't like it. That's the way they got the railway there to make it.
Right.
So I thought, how can I devise a walk that takes in Pulpit Bridge? That's the way my mind worked. How can I show people this thing? And I would immediately go onto OS Maps. I open it up. The Jurassic Way actually goes right underneath the bridge, so that's a good start. But I could then see that I could start in Watford Village, go along the footpaths, a couple of fields, and devised a 6.1 mile walk, circular walk all the way around it and back in. And that's the way I work. I go out and I
Right.
see things. I think I must be able to build that into a walk. So
Hmm.
I know a current one we're doing. I was driving along along a road from a village, and I saw a plaque at the side of the road that I'd never seen before. So immediately, oh, stop the car, get out, have a look at it, and find that it was the birthplace of where radar first started in the UK. And that's it. I'm straight home on OS Maps app, looking at right, where's the footpaths, and we're currently writing that one up as well.
Brilliant. So it's a
That's
case, so
the
it's a
market.
combination of OS Maps and Google then. So you see something, do a bit of Google and find out a bit of history, then plot it on OS Maps and find out how you can tie that into a walk as well then.
Yeah, and see what's on it. So have a look at the villages. So a lot of villages have got I think we've got around about I think it's around about 30 village walks, town and village walks in Northamptonshire on the website. So there again, I'll give people these walks around the village, but I won't, it won't just be a walk. It'll be all the history behind it. I mean, we've got Weedon near us, Weedon Beck, and there's
Yes.
a place there called the Depot. I don't know if you've ever been in the Depot. Well, the
No.
Depot was in the Napoleonic Wars. They decided they didn't want to store all the ammunition and everything on the south coast, so they got the canal system. So the canal system came past Weedon, so they built the depot, and that's where all and an arm of the canal coming into it, and also the railway line coming into it, and that's where they stored all the ammunition for the Napoleonic Wars.
Wow. You learn something
Uh,
new
yeah.
every day.
So we got a group walk round. I'm doing a group walk round there in November. Come along on it. I'll
I
show
might have to actually. Is that where is it the depot? Is that where you've got the like bookshop and stuff like? Is that the warehouses?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I have been there. Yeah, it's great round there.
And then that used also after that was the home of the mounted artillery, the Royal Hussars, and all things like that. And we walk up the road, and there's another concrete floor. I'm into these concrete floors, but on these concrete floors are a load of posts going along. And
Mm.
everybody goes, "Oh, I don't know what that is." And I say, "Okay, just touch the posts, touch the posts." I said, "You're touching history now," and it's in the middle of a little housing estate. And then I get out a photograph and I show them, and that is one of the stables of all the horses, and the posts there were in the stables, and the horses were tied to the posts.
Wow.
So I do loads and loads of research before I go. But sometimes, like I say, you just come across something, and then you get excited, wonder what that is, then come back and then try and find out.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll go,
That's a
we'll
one.
go and ask the locals, And Weedon, why has Weedon weather vane got a goose on it instead of a cockerel? Things like that. And then you go back and then you find there's a legend from, I think it's the King of Mercia about the goose story in Weedon.
Oh, right. Okay. So this does sound like a way of making walking far more interesting. Like it's an exploration, isn't it? It's adventure, and I think that's definitely something that maybe many of us, and I know me included, are probably missing out on this. So on this idea about turning to habit, then what do you think gets in the way of some people? So let's say some people realize they love walking, but then they stop for whatever reason. Is it weather? Because what are the obstacles, and how do
Yeah,
we overcome them?
weather is definitely one,
Okay.
without a doubt. And you've got to stay safe. So we're always looking at any weather warnings that are out there.
Mm.
Now, the way the Met Office is tending to work these days, it will give if there's going to be a thunderstorm, it will give a warning out for most of the country. And obviously, we know that storms aren't going to happen everywhere. So the way we tend to plan it is, yes, there might be a weather warning out there, but you can generally go on satellite pictures and that and find out where things are and what sort of time of day it's going to hit you. So we can plan. You can plan it around things like that. Um, I would say the weather is certainly one. I would say life in general gets between it, and it's having the mindset to think, right, okay, I am going to step away from that desk, or I am just going to go and get out for 30 minutes or whatever, even if it's just 30 minutes during the day, just get out there. And I think that is the big thing. I think it's life in general, certainly the weather. And then maybe if you've got, I don't know, accessibility, disability, things like that. So I get a lot of people come to me and say, "Love seeing all your walks. I've got a wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair. I can't get out across fields and things like that." And I say, "Fine." That's why on the website I've got about, I think, 30 or 40 walks that I think are suitable for accessibility, disabilities, or wheelchairs or anything like that. Yeah, so they're all hard surface. They're not all around towns and villages. There's a classic one that goes from Kislinbury, that's about 5 or 6 miles. You come all the way through Upton Country Park. It's all hard surface, and you're out in a wonderful country park, lots and lots of wildlife, birds, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And a nice cafe halfway around.
Good. Nice to throw that into the mix. So it sounds like so if people think ahead about the weather then, and are willing to just go out for that short bit, whether it is easy to get tied to your desk, isn't it? But I guess you've got to have that mindset of just going out for a short walk, like you said, 20 or 30 minutes. Is there anything that ever stops you going for a walk, Dave?
If it's planned, no, then I would generally go. It's more probably if I think, right, okay, today I should get out and do this. I'm going to hopefully get out there and do this today.
Right.
And then life gets in the way, and it's that word hopefully. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I
So
get.
I
Just
know,
remove that word from the sentence.
yeah, we got this plan for 11 o'clock today, and I confess we had a bit of a lie-in this morning because the dog came up on the bed and had a bit of a snooze. So I didn't get a chance to go and walk with the dog, and Tiny said to me, "Shall I take the dog or whatever?" And then I said, "Well, it's up to you, but why don't we, when I finish with you, we'll go for a walk." So I'm just going to go. And today we're just going to go in the local parks and walk around there. And we're very lucky where we live because there are lots of different pocket parks that we can interlink.
Yeah. So it's not about being rigid with, I need to do it at this time. It's just fitting it in throughout the day at certain points when you can.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a smart approach.
It's actually doing it, So rather than saying, "Oh, hopefully today I'll get out there," no, I will get out there, but it's going to be the time I'm going to do it. I'm lucky I'm retired, so I can be flexible.
Yeah.
But I've never been busier since I have retired. So
sounds good. Well, that's I think with all the things you're talking about, then let's just recap on some of those things, because I think those things are those exciting points, those exciting ideas about it are going to be enough to get, I imagine, most of us out there and have a walk. So we talked about the thing that grabs you is the history, being able to travel back in time. And also to show people what you found when you traveled back in time, churches, factories, all the interesting lives of the people that might have walked through them throughout the years. Talks about discovering and just being able to go out there and find things out, and looking for movement. You mentioned, Dave, as well, and looking for things that shouldn't be there as well. So this is totally flipped my perception of what walking is on its head. It's walking for me was transport, or it was maybe a bit of light exercise, but actually when the way you're talking about it now is completely different to that. I like the fact this talked about the difference between solo versus group, and some people do it more for a safety thing and the social aspect, but both of them can seem to bring the same sort of magic anyway. And then about building the habit, Dave, you said don't worry about the expensive kits, just dress for the occasion. So obviously, if you're going to be somewhere where it's going to be wet and soggy, then you might want to wear wellies. You're not a fan of Nordic walking, and you're not a fan of counting steps, which I would agree with. I don't get the point in that. If we're having to count our steps, we're probably in a little bit of trouble, I would say. And also it might detract from the joy of the experience itself. Planning as well. Dave mentioned these Google, obviously, which we're all familiar with, but these OS Maps app. So ordnance survey maps that you can plot landmarks and then plan your walks around them. Because I think that for me would have been the sticking point, where to walk. But clearly you've just made that really easy by saying, find something that's interesting to you, find it online on those maps, and then plan your walk around that. So that sounds really good. And don't be put off by the weather. Don't be a weather wimp. We live in the UK. It's not Ibiza. We can't, just wait till it's 28 degrees and sunshine outside. So I think it sounds really interesting, Dave, what you're saying. And I think I imagine people listening to this, hopefully those who are a bit resistant to walking might be tempted now, or more than tempted, to get out and have a bit of a stroll. What would you, if there was one last thing you would say to people to persuade them who haven't been persuaded already, that minority of people that haven't been persuaded by what you've said, what would you say to them?
Look at what you're missing.
Look at what you're missing. And actually, well, it's true. There's so much out there that we're not aware of that's
Yeah.
fascinating. Like you've said, in the streets of London, there's so many incredible things. When you look above Next and HMV, there's so many really, really, really cool
Yeah.
things.
I think it's just a case of having the mindset to just go and do it. Just make a little bit of time, just go and do it, and just be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, what's going on. What was that noise, or what was that? And
Yes.
try tuning into it. And I know a lot of people like to walk listening to music and things like that, and that's great. That's not for me. I like to immerse myself in my surroundings, wherever they
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah, I think the headphones thing, it's more commonplace now. I've got to admit, I don't do that anymore. But I used to, everywhere I went, have music on. But now I think, well, actually, you're sort of missing out, you're disconnecting from what's going on around you if you always got a podcast on or some music. So I think, yeah, just nature, those sounds of nature. Look at the way things are around you. That mindful experience, I think, is so valuable. So, Dave, tell everyone where those who are listening now, who are chomping at the bit to get out and walk, where can they find out more about your walks? How can they join some of your walks? What are your social medias? How can they find more out about you? Add to your horde of raving fans.
So our website, which will direct you to everywhere, is northamptonshirewalks.co.uk. We have a Facebook group that's got around about currently 34,000 members on it, all of which are pretty active, and we monitor it very, very closely. So it's an extremely safe place. We've got about 6 moderators on there, all volunteers. Very, very safe. We don't take, I'm not saying we're very strict, but we are quite strict, and we do tend to knock anything on the head that will look like it might go in the wrong direction. And we're also on X, the old Twitter, and Instagram as well. So pretty much all the social media things, and we'd love you to come and join. And then group walks, we publish our group walks once a month. They're published on the website and all the social media, and we normally run around about 24 a month. They're all different distances, including for people that can't walk or don't want to walk too far. We do something called a chill and a coffee walk, which is all on hard surface. It's probably only about a mile, 2 miles, something like that. We have a walk, we stop, we have a little bit more of a walk, we stop, and then we take you to a cafe and buy you a cup of coffee. Or if you come on the one round toaster with me, we go in the brewery and we might have a beer. Who knows?
Oh, that sounds brilliant, Dave. And I think, yeah, I can imagine people who come on your groups have found it so rewarding, as I'm sure those who are listening today who are going to come and join as well, as I'm going to try out a walk at some point in the future. I think hopefully they'll be able to experience the benefits that you do. So, Dave, I want to thank you for your time, and remember, everyone, as Dave said, just start with maybe 2 or 3 steps. Again, it takes back to that quote from Lao Tzu, doesn't it? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So without sounding too cheesy, I think hopefully we can slot that quote in as we round up, and thank Dave for his time. Thank you, Dave.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers, Dave. Thanks, everyone. Look forward to catching you on the next episode of The Wellbeing Wire. Speak soon. Bye-bye.